Welcome back, everybody, to the Flight Path podcast. This is your weekly podcast where we cover all things Tern. We talk about what we got done this week, new features that have shipped, exciting updates that are on horizon, and just about everything else in the world of Tern. We've got 3 hosts every single week. I'm David, CEO and co-founder of Tern, joined by Molly, our head of product, and Brad, our head of design. And we have another action-packed show for you. But before we jump into that, we just kind of check in on how folks are doing. Brad, you've got a new and exciting background I can see there. Where in the world are you joining from?
Yeah, I'm in Chamonix this week. Been here for a couple days and be here for a little longer, doing a little ski in the morning, hang out with all the folks in Chamonix, and then work kind of afternoon hours here when the rest of the team's online in the US. Sounds great in theory, a little exhausting in practice, but we're making it work and trying to have some fun. So it's been really good.
Love that. And Molly, how are things in your world?
Last week I left the house 3 times. This week it's been 0 times. So back to normal, back to my favorite little groove here, just staying in a 1-mile radius of my house. Not as glamorous as Brad. I'm a little jealous of the skiing, but yeah, it's been a really good week.
That's amazing. Yeah, and it's I feel like I'm coming to you from a different part of the world every week lately. This one is a little bit less exciting. We're kind of doing a road trip from Michigan down to Florida to escape the 3 seasons that Michigan had in a single day this time of year. It was like 70 degrees one day, then it dropped to 32 and sleet, and so we were like, we got to get out of here. So we're going to go see my in-laws and kind of work from somewhere warmer, which would be great. But we get to kick off this podcast with one of the topics I think I'm most excited about, which is just this kind of concept of AI, artificial intelligence. I got the opportunity to speak at a conference a couple of weeks ago on just sort of what we think that the future of AI is for the industry. And if you're a listener to this podcast, it won't be a surprise to you that at Tern, we don't see AI as a threat to travel advisors. We don't see this as something that's going to be a massive kind of disruptor. Travel advisors have incredible staying power, and we believe that will be the case through this next technological revolution. But what's really exciting, we think, about AI, even compared to things like mobile and the internet and these types of things that maybe were a little bit less directly impactful on the travel advising side, AI has this incredible opportunity to take a lot of the invisible work that we've talked about before and actually start to remove that, so that as an advisor, you can really focus on the things that make you truly special to your clients. It's taking that unique knowledge and experiences that you have and crafting incredible trips way faster using AI. It's being able to kind of source information and access information that you have living on your computer or your camera library much faster, being able to do things in these systems much faster. And we really believe that this technology kind of positions that in a way that these others really haven't. And so obviously we're excited to start to explore, like, how can we really start to push the boundaries of empowering travel advisors with artificial intelligence beyond the AI assist tool, which we'll talk about in a minute, has saved well over 15,000 hours of manual data entry time for travel advisors, which we think is incredible. But there's kind of this whole new era that we're moving into. And Brad, maybe kind of throwing it over to you. I know you've been thinking a lot about how does AI and really other improvements, it's not just artificial intelligence, like help speed up what advisors are trying to do. And you want to just talk about how we're thinking there?
Yeah, for sure. And I think really it ties back to the hashtag you've been evangelizing and getting people to use, hashtag end invisible work. It's catching on, I've heard. But it's not just AI that's going to help there. Like when we think about invisible work, we often think about what are things advisors have to do today in turn that maybe feels like higher effort than it should, or where they have to take, they are thinking about it some way, like, oh, how do I need to get that into Tern in the way Tern thinks about it? And so over the next couple weeks and months, we're both going to be using AI to make that simpler, maybe doing things where you can just type exactly what you're looking for, the way you're thinking about it, and we'll do that lifting for you. Or actually changing the user experience in some ways, not using AI, just to more match kind of the mental model that you have as an advisor, to make the things that you're looking for one click away instead of 3 tabs deep, potentially, making it easier to just quickly pull up the type of information that you're looking for. So there's more to our focus over the next couple of months than just AI, but we're really excited, again, to try to make it feel like when you're trying to use Tern, get information in or out, it's really snappy and it's very intuitive in a way that today might feel like, oh, I have to learn how to use Tern in order to just like get this thing done that I need to get done as an advisor.
And I think that part is like what is so exciting about this. Like it's this kind of era of refinement, right? And thinking of like you said, like how do I do, take 3 tabs and get into like maybe a click? And the benefit of that is speed. So if you're a current advisor using this, like how do you do the things in turn that you're already doing today, but significantly faster? But it's also, and Brad, you said this, right? Like if you're a brand new advisor coming into turn, hopefully those same improvements also just make it so much more intuitive of like, oh, like I know exactly how to do this. So it's going to be really exciting. And we're doing kind of a lot of research on this. We're starting to take steps towards some of the kind of first AI updates. Like Molly, do you want to kind of speak to that?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's like also interesting to just give a little bit of an inside look about what we're learning as a team, right? Because I think if you've listened to the podcast before, you know that we really pride ourselves on shipping many different wins every single week, right? We've gotten so good, over all of our career experience, but also just as a team working together at being able to understand like what are the most important pain points to solve, what's the tightest possible kind of what we call scope or surface area to solve those problems, breaking down that work very concretely, and then we just like execute like crazy. And so we can say every single week we know we can ship these 5-6 things. And with AI, it's a little bit of a different beast, right? Because a lot of it's more experimental. A lot of it are areas and technologies that we're actually learning as we're starting to build. And so it's been really fun, but it's like a different way of building that's going to be a learning curve for us as a team before we can get into that same level of like consistently shipping features with AI in a predictable way. So don't worry, while we're doing some of that, we're also, slotting in some of those very like concrete areas that we know we can execute on with the same pace that we have today. But we think some of the AI areas that we're investing in will just be like game changing in a way that you just couldn't build without it. So investing in both areas has been kind of a fun, lot of context switching, and it's been like Brad and I just trying to like ramp up on that too has been a challenge, but in a pretty exciting way.
Yeah, it is fun. I think it's, we've learned a lot, I think, as like building this business generally, but this kind of feels like one of the first times where we're like sort of venturing into the unknown, right? Like we sort of see where we're going, right? We see the top of the mountain and the impact this can have. We see where we're at today and we have like some basic tools, but it's like we're just going to have to figure it out and kind of like build the muscle, set on the journey, whatever kind of metaphor you want to use, which is both a little scary, but it's also like kind of exciting and exhilarating, right? Because if we can really figure this out, I think it will be transformational for advisors.
And by the way, I realized I didn't actually talk about what we're doing over the next few weeks, so I can do that next.
Yeah, you want to jump into that and kind of like, okay, so like we got this big vision, we see the top of the mountain. What's our first step, right? Like what are we doing?
Yeah, so I think it's been a while since we've like more deeply invested in features with AI. I think AI Assist was a fantastic not only tool for getting, starting to build trips and also getting data from other systems over into Tern, but also foundational just to start to see examples of advisors trying to do this today. And so the first step basically along some of these improvements is there's just a lot of areas that we've identified from advisors using this consistently need to get a lot better. So things like better preserving like descriptions and photos and content when you're importing that data. As just one example, those are the types of things that we're basically just looking at like all of the PDFs and links and content people are copy and pasting and what's working well and what's not, and really improving it. But as a part of that, what's also really cool is we think there's some foundational architectural things that we can do that I don't know if we have the time to get deep into the weeds of today, but that should also set up the foundations of some of the more exploratory features that we'll want to build in the future. Just to say one example, I think separating out more the concept of importing trip data from like crafting a trip from scratch, and like you can imagine kind of the mechanisms to do both are actually quite different, and also the data that we can get from either of those behaviors is quite different. So we can focus on really optimizing both separately versus having like a single text box trying to do the same thing. And that's just kind of one architectural example, but there's some others that, yeah, I don't know if we have the time to unpack today, but are also kind of interesting to talk through.
And maybe just another way for folks to think about the difference between like creating a trip versus like like kind of importing. It's like if you think about like giving somebody instructions, that's like, hey, I want you for an importing, it's like, I want you to do exactly this. Do not make anything up. The data's already there. Like, please fill it out exactly as is. On the other hand, it's like, please make everything up. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what the trip is. Like, I need you to decide for me. Don't like make up fake things, but like you're filling in where should they stay, where might they do activities, things like that. And today that's like kind of one thing in turn. We're like, hey, you could take this path or this other one, figure it out. AI, where like we can optimize that a lot in the future. And like Molly said, just like one of many examples.
Yeah, that's such a good example. That's such a good tangible way of thinking about it, Brad. And like, I think AI is really powerful in the data import case because the data can be in any format under the sun, right? So if we try to hard code some of that, it's just not going to be flexible enough to support all of the various ways that people want to import data. But it has a tendency to summarize content, summarize descriptions, like that sort of thing, how we're using it today. So we can be a lot more strict with the AI about what we want it to do in that case and let its creativity shine in the latter case.
We could talk about this for hours. I'll say one more thing because we got the rest of the agenda to go through. I mean, I think what this also illustrates is just like sort of how we're trying to think about this. And we had a really good discussion as a team yesterday around there's a risk with building some of these AI features that you actually increase the complexity, right? Because if there's now this like new thing where you have to like learn how to optimize this, and this is what we see. I think a lot of advisors sometimes struggle with like a chat GPT or something like that. It's like, what is the right prompt construction? What data do I have to give it to get this kind of optimal output? And as we think about building some of these features, like what we're trying to do is like build the user experience and build the flows in a way where we're like kind of crafting the right prompt, we're feeding in the right information so that you get high quality output without having to be a prompt engineer, if you will. But then also like there's so much context that you as an advisor have put into Tern about your clients, about the trip, about what you're looking for, right? And what we think is really exciting and like really compelling is if you actually start to combine the context with the right structure and the right UI, like you can deliver incredibly personalized experiences for your clients at a fraction of the time that it would take today. And that has implications on all kinds of things. It has implications on content like city guides and packing lists. It has implications on data entry, like we were talking about with import, right? There's like so many opportunities where you can actually improve your ability to personalize the client experience. You can save time. And like that's sort of like the kind of vision that we're chasing. And so this AI kind of 2.0 or 3.0, depending on how you count it, assist is going to be sort of the first foundation to that. We're learning a lot, and then I think you'll start to see really throughout the rest of Tern's journey different ways that we can start to kind of build using these tools. But we have a lot of other things that we're also thinking about, and one of the other sort of I'd say like firsts for the company is like really starting to think through how do we take data that is in Tern and start to share that with like an external entity. And that sounds a little scary when you say it like that, but like in this case,
where are you going, David? That's
yeah. But like specifically that's like the mechanism for like a lot of things that agencies need, specifically when it comes to the consortium relationships that they have, right? They have all this information on sales. They have all this information that they need to actually start to share with the consortium in a controlled and secure way. And today we don't have a mechanism for doing that, but we're now building that. And I think it's like pretty exciting and pretty compelling. So maybe Molly, do you want to kind of talk about the first kind of consortium integration? And this is something that we want to do a lot more of. Our goal is like every consortium out there is integrated with Tern in like not the too distant future. And so if you're a part of a consortium that we're not going to talk about today, like please let them know, let us know that you're interested in this. But do you want to talk about Molly kind of like what this feature is and sort of how it works?
Yeah, and I guess I think I mentioned this a lot in the podcast, but it is just really special, like our community and how passionate advisors and agencies are about Tern that like we're even able to be doing this like so early in our journey. Like we're as we speak, working on the details of integrating with Signature, just like this massive, really incredible consortia that like, wow, it's just really cool that there's that much interest that it's an integration that we're able to approach again so early into Tern's journey here.
And can I just plus that just for 1 second, just like add to that story and like what I said at the beginning, like we were at the Signature conference for the first time ever last November, right? And I met the president of Signature, and like literally he goes like, oh, I was just talking to an agency who's like, I'm not going to switch until you have the Tern integration, which was just mind boggling, right? That like you as the community, as the listeners are like that bought in to what we're trying to build together, that like you're having those conversations. And I also share that just to say, like, if you wonder if that email that you're sending to your host agency or your consortium like actually makes a difference, like they make a difference. And so like thank you for your support and doing that. And anyway, back to you, Molly.
Yeah. So yeah, every week I feel like there's some reminder of how amazing our community of advisors and agencies are. But yeah, this week it's been Signature integration land. So Brad and I have been doing some like user research calls with agencies who are interested in Tern plus the Signature integration, just to make sure that we're thinking about it the right way and providing the right tools to upload marketing codes into Tern and manage those codes and make sure that, of course, like all the pitfalls that we've heard about with the data syncing and deduping make sense. And to take a quick step back, when we're thinking about the Signature integration, we're really thinking about how we get kind of contact data between the two systems to be constantly syncing and up to date. So, when advisors are saying, this contact, their email is this, and they're interested in luxury cruises, and they typically spend over this amount of money, and they like to be emailed every week or so. They're managing those things in turn, but they're syncing over to Signature because Signature is doing all kinds of really tailored specialty marketing to those clients. We know that they're interested in that type of cruise, and there's this thing coming up, and we're going to give them this print marketing or this newsletter or what have you. So, it's really all about us making sure that we're technically integrated in order to have both systems have up-to-date contact information and those marketing codes, and that it can be managed in the Tern side.
And it's kind of interesting, and Brad, I know you've got maybe some kind of, just to bring this to life, things to show, but like there's one approach to these integrations where it's like, okay, like we'll just like have you re-enter all the data that has to go to Signature in a separate place, but like a lot of this data already exists in Tern, right? And so it's like, how do you actually kind of have this hybrid approach where we're supplementing it with the data that is unique to Signature in this case, but any of the consortiums? But then how do you also just like pull all the structured contact data and other details that we have within the system to save the time so that you get the benefit of this marketing and this kind of business growth engine without having to do a whole bunch of other manual data entry to get there. So I think the kind of approach that we're looking at is pretty compelling and pretty powerful. And Brad, do you want to kind of talk about how we're thinking about it?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and just pull this up quick for anyone who's watching on video so they can see kind of like how we're the first iteration of this. As most things we'll share in kind of like early designs like this. This is very much a concept, so the final product may change quite a bit from what we end up building. But generally how we're thinking about this is that we're going to integrate these things directly into the context of what's syncing. So like Molly mentioned, we're going to start with syncing contacts between Tern and Signature. And so any details that you already have on your contact in Tern, like their email address, their like physical mailing address, stuff like that, even just details like their name, some obvious things, that stuff will just like live where it lives today in a contact. There's no change there, and you just keep like using contacts however you're using them today. And if you update those details, those will automatically get pushed over to Signature. But like David mentioned, there's pieces of this where that's specific to a certain consortium like Signature or anyone else that's out there, where they might have specific fields that you do need to fill out just for that sync, basically. So likely what we'll end up doing is adding additional tabs or spaces on the contact profile that have those custom consortium level fields that you can edit quickly. And if you need to tag them with something that you want to sync over to the consortium, you can do that pretty quickly. And we'd also show you, like what's happening, like when things have synced, if things aren't syncing, why, some stuff like that, to make sure that there's kind of transparency as to what's happening and why it's happening. But that's again kind of the goal. Like anything that already exists in a contact profile, make sure that just syncs over, no change. You don't have to do anything to set that up. And then any new stuff, we'll find a home for kind of within a contact. Anything else you want to add there, David or Molly, while we're looking at the screen?
We're also just thinking through, like, on the activity log, like if signature updates things, being able to share that for, again, just transparency, and even just like help looking into if there's an issue, like just being able to log as many specifics as we can to kind of give users that transparency.
Yeah, I think it'll be really interesting to have, because today, like, a contact can be updated by you, by a collaborator, maybe if somebody fills out a form, but now we have this other thing that's like, oh, the contact updated it in signature, which then flowed through into Tern. Like, how do we make sure all that's clear on the profile?
Yeah, exactly.
And this is like, I say this a lot of our features, right? But like, it's just so fun. Like we were kind of talking even before we went on air here around like, should we show the mock-ups? Like, and I think it's like just looking at this, it's really fun to bring these integrations to life. Like we've literally been talking about these integrations for, I don't know, year and a half as something like we know we need to do. And so like now to have this here and to get at something that's like as simple and as straightforward with this is like, just again, it's a ton of behind the scenes like mapping of like how do our concepts go to their concepts, and like how do these kind of translation layers work, and like what's the two-way sync. And so it's like there's a lot that kind of happens behind the scenes to get this working. And so over the next kind of probably like a couple months is like when you'll really start to see this like go fully live, and we'll kind of announce these kind of partnerships more broadly. But it's really fun to start to think about how can this become the system of record for an agency that is a part of these consortiums. And historically would have had to really kind of wrestle with like, well, I'm contractually obligated to share this data with my consortium. How do I use Tern as my back office if I can't do that? And having that now sort of be solved first for signature agencies, then virtuoso agencies, and then we'd love to work with the other consortiums out there as well. So another plug, let them know if you're a part of them that you'd like to have them work with Tern. We think this is going to be a massive leap forward and truly integrating that stack. Like we're not building the consortium back office, right? But like it's in the kind of spirit of like, how does Tern become the vertically integrated solution? This is one of those situations where we've said like, we don't want to build that. We want to play nice in the sandbox. We want to integrate with that back office. It's like, that's what we're doing. But it's all sort of in spirit of this idea of there should be one platform that the advisor, the agency owner, the host agency can use that just surfaces the data in the right place at the right time, where needed. So really excited about this. Can't wait to get it out there. I know there'll be a lot of agency owners that are listening to this that are pretty excited to see this sort of coming to life and this being real. But we have kind of a lot of other things that we did actually like ship this week. So like maybe kind of moving on, this was the what's coming, a little bit of a crystal ball glimpse into the future kind of section of the podcast. We still ship stuff every single week, right? I think that's the cool thing about Tern is like at one level, like we spend a lot of thought cycles every week being like, what's the industry going to look like in 10 years? And like, how do we play a role in like making that happen? And like, how do we like establish these partnerships? And like, there's this sort of long-term, kind of weekly strategy and planning. And then it's also like, okay, we got to ship these 3 major features this week. So pretty exciting. Brad, we've shipped some major updates on the kind of collaboration side of things, which is super fun because quick anecdote as I wrap up the monologue, we were at our happy hour at the kind of River Cruise Expo, and it was like, I think we had 3 different people come up to us and be like, I love Tern. It's so great. I just need like documents to be able to be collaborative. I just need to be able to collaborate on credit card authorization. And like, I'm like in the back of my head, I'm like, you got to listen to Flight Path because we got some news for you. So Brad, you want to talk about what's going on there?
Yes. I love you calling yourself out on your own monologue. Okay, so and I think just to tie this back to the invisible work piece, I think we talked about that. I'm forgetting what we talked about in which podcast now. But one of the cool things about this is, again, it's like, okay, we're using Tern. We're like in Tern, it's already saving us time, but there's things we still have to do kind of outside of Tern, or there's workarounds. And so like what we're doing now and what we'll continue over the next couple months is say like, where are those points and how do we fix, like, how do we address them? How do we incorporate them into the core product? So on the collaboration front, 2 things we shipped this week is collaborative, or what you can now collaborate on documents, which basically means multiple people, an advisor or collaborators, can upload documents to a trip. You can see the documents the other person uploaded, and you can make some basic edits like name, document type, things like that. and then adjust like which ones are visible to travelers. So if you have like an assistant who's helping you book things, you want to make sure they're adding the receipts to the trip, they can now do that, and before they'd have to like send them to you or log into your account. And then we also made it easier for collaborators to see all the authorization status of items on a trip. So previously they could see authorization on an individual activity if they went to like the booking and pricing tab, but they couldn't see the full list of all the authorizations and the statuses. So those are now visible to collaborators. Again, should save a ton of time, especially if you have assistants who like are taking those authorizations and actually making those bookings. That'll help a lot with their ability to just go down the list and make sure that they resolve any open authorizations and get those things booked. So yeah, the vision's to, again, kind of have like full collaborator access, pretty much anything you can imagine wanting a collaborator to help you with in Tern. We want to make that possible over time. So more to come there, and we're continuing to learn like how people are collaborating today and what the different models are for how people want to collaborate. So continue to make progress, but excited to at least ship these two things this week.
Love it. And Molly, there's other things I think that are happening on collaboration from a contact perspective. You want to talk about those?
There are, David. Thank you for that segue. Yeah, so in contact land, we know, so this especially comes into play at the agency level, but really for anyone working kind of closely together to plan trips and to manage, a contact list. There are cases where you want to actually have a different owner of that contact. So imagine an agent is leaving for another agency, and it's a kind of agency owned contact that you want to transfer to a different agent. Or someone just doesn't have the bandwidth to work with a client consistently anymore, or has a different area of specialty, or what have you. So we made it easy, just like if you're familiar with transferring trip ownership, you can now write in Tern if you're the owner of that contact or the agency administrator, you can change over the ownership of the contact right in Tern. It'll still give collaborator access to the old owner unless you remove them. So it should just make working on contacts together a bit more seamless. And it's also a really important foundation for something that will be very exciting that we'll talk about more next week. And that's the ability to import agency-wide contacts and mass assign out agency owners to those contacts, and even change ownership, again, via that upload if you need to change that kind of en masse at any time. So that should just be huge foundational piece that's so important, especially when agencies first switch over to Tern. Brooklyn, I'm sure many of you know who are listening, who runs a lot of our agency implementations. I've never seen her so excited about a feature, because trying to like juggle having each of your agents individually upload their own set of contacts is a nightmare, and she often coordinates that. So we're going to be making Brooklyn's life a lot easier, hopefully next week. And then we also just did one other nice quality of life thing in contact land, which was when you export contacts, either contacts shared with you. So again, if you're that agency owner trying to get every contact out of Tern, maybe to use it, that list for marketing, we now include phone numbers and loyalty programs in that export. And just like Brad was talking about with trip collaboration, our goal is to provide any sort of data you need to get on contacts easily accessible in that export. So keep the requests coming if there's other things that are missing.
So cool. And like, yeah, it just this. We talked about this, I think, last week. We've talked about it before, right? But this just idea of like planning travel in so many cases is a team sport, right? Whether you're working with your agency, whether it's like you're working across other advisors, whether it's like having an assistant, whether it's somebody who's covering for you when you're out of office, and like historically, the tools just like haven't supported that. And so it's really fun, and it's hard. I mean, we're like learning firsthand, like figuring out the permissions and the privacy and like all the kind of different details. And like, it's not easy to do, but every step forward that we take towards making this flexible so you can have a team that's there to support you in your business, I think it's like really inspiring and really cool. So exciting about the kind of collaboration piece as we kind of move on to the last segment of the podcast, which is a little bit of kind of what else we're kind of working on and what's coming next week. Brad, you want to just kind of give a quick update on where things are at? We teased this last week around forms, I think. Anything you want to kind of say there before that maybe big reveal, maybe next week or sometime soon?
Oh, there's no maybe next week. Like it's either today or it's for sure next week. Yeah, the biggest form thing, I think we've talked about this in the past, is We'll make it so that you can customize really any contact information you want to collect when doing a trip request form or a group sign up form. Again, today we know that often you have to like get that initial request and then you follow up with like, hey, can you fill out this contact form with all the details that I really need from you? So we'll, again, provide a way to streamline that where you can just collect any contact details you need for every traveler on the trip at the time of trip when they request a trip or when they sign up for a group. So it should be a huge unlock and just like save, again, one of those extra tasks you need to do because it doesn't work the exact way you want to today and allow you to streamline that flow. And then there'll be some more forms updates, just like some UI things that we'll talk about in a future episode.
Some UI things. It's like the number one forms pain point today. But yeah, we'll talk about
Bearing the lead is what we call that. And yeah, this is fun. Like, I feel like this week we've gotten a bunch. We did the kind of promotion for the users conference and kind of went wide with that. And the number of people that were like, I didn't see a place to enter my sailor ID on the traveler. And I'm like, this is like a great example of like, in the like just have like all these like different fields and things at the traveler level, collect everything you need in one go. It's going to be so cool. So, but we're also working on, speaking of number one requested things that people have been very vocal about and that we'll be very excited about. Why? What do you got cooking for next week?
Okay, I'm also going to pull an audible and go off script a little bit because there's two things today. Right after our kind of team fun bonding meeting, we are talking editor. So we haven't talked about the editor really, I think, on the podcast much, but we have this amazing contractor who's been working on it kind of behind the scenes consistently. And today we're talking about, okay, what are the next steps to slot in the remaining editor work on the roadmap to actually get it out there. And Brad, I know you've been playing around with it and it's like pretty awesome. So that's
and this is kind of wild. I mean, props to Brad because like
I'm off script, but yeah.
Off script, yeah. It's like totally derailed me now, but we have to talk about it because we brought it up. And it's like, so we're in this like leadership meeting. I don't know, it was like in January. And we're just like, oh, like people hate the editors, but it's going to be such a nightmare. And Brad just like chimes in. He's like, well, like, you know, if we were open to a contractor, like I know somebody whose entire job is just like building editors for companies. And I'm like, that can't be a real job. Like, it's like, sure enough, this guy is like an editor savant. And this is what he does is like help people move editors. And like, fast forward, you know, it's been like a month and a half. And like, we're like getting pretty close to having an editor that is way better than the confusing block editor that we have today. So shout out to Brad for the power of and.
Undo.
Yeah. Welcome to 2025. You'll be able to undo things.
Hey, things today, just like some random assortment of things that you don't really.
50% of the time it works, and 50% of the time it doesn't work. Yeah. So that is something that I went off script on, but is like maybe the number one requested feature. The other number one requested feature, if it's a tier, not a ranking, is invoicing. So invoicing is really exciting. I think I read through every single Canny feedback comment, which is our feedback collection tool, Facebook comment, support ticket, and like people trying to work around this today is just really painful. It's a clear major gap in Tern. And I think we have ways of solving for it that people have adapted to, but there's just a clear, real need for better invoicing in the system. So we are gearing up to start on that, getting into the last little details this next week, and then we'll be starting development on it the week after. So as you know, with Tern, kind of in the week or two after that, you'll start to see the first versions of it.
That's going to be huge. And yeah, that it's really been fun kind of watching some of the designs and mocks. So we won't go too deep into it, but stay tuned. It's coming and it's going to be huge. Any closing thoughts before we get to the wrap up here? We'll start with you, Brad. Anything else you want to share on this wonderful Friday we're having?
I wanted to share this earlier and then we moved on from AI, but you mentioned how exciting all the AI stuff is. And I feel that so deeply because I start thinking about AI and I go deeper and deeper and deeper. And then I like lose track of all my actual to-dos, like the things that I need to get done today. So we like to make fun of David for being excited about AI, but it's like a virus at times. You're like, oh, this is so cool. Here's all this stuff. And then, I need to pull myself out and like put it in a corner. Like you can only have like fun playtime with AI every once in a while or else you forget about your real job. So That's the thing I just wanted to share. I don't know why, but that's been on my mind.
Well, I just feel really seen now. Like I feel like there's like that because that's how I feel all the time. I'm like you get sucked in, and it's like pretty soon you spent a whole weekend fine tuning a model. You're like, whoa, where am I? Right? It's like what just happened. So, Molly, any closing thoughts on your side?
I think that's a good way to close it out. Plus, plus.
All right. Well, we can't close it out with that because we have to remind the people to leave a comment. If you have one, we read all of those. Go ahead and click on the like button. Don't forget to click on subscribe and whatever podcast tool you use, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, if you're watching us in your living room on YouTube, like whatever it is, let us know. Click like, click on subscribe, and we will see you next week. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.